Today, we're diving into a powerful story of youth, determination, and the fight for fairness. The 2024 Bangladesh Quota Reform Movement. After the independence of Bangladesh, the Awami League government under President Sheikh Mujibur Rahman established a quota for the Bangladesh civil service through an order of the Ministry of Cabinet Services.
আমি প্রধানমন্ত্রিত্ব চাই না, আমরা দেশের মানুষের অধিকার চাই। আর যদি একটা গুলি চলে, আর যদি আমার লোকের উপর হত্যা করা হয়,
The government gave a 30% quota to veterans of the Bangladesh Liberation War, 10% to victimized women, and 40% to underrepresented districts. Professor Muzaffar Ahmed Chaudhry, Vice-Chancellor of the University of Dhaka, opposed the move and called for merit-based recruitment. By 1976, the government of Bangladesh reduced the quota for people from underrepresented districts to 20%, which increased jobs for merit-based candidates to 40%. In 1997, 26 years after the Bangladesh Liberation War, the government of Bangladesh extended the quota to children of freedom fighters. In 2008, Akbar Ali Khan, former civil servant and freedom fighter, and Qazi Rakibuddin Ahmed, civil servant, provided Dr. Sadat Hossain, chairman of the Bangladesh Public Service Commission, a report on the quota system essentially describing it as a flawed system, while also calling for reforms. By 2010, the government of Bangladesh further extended the quota for freedom fighters to include their grandchildren. On the 21st of March 2018, Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina announced the continuation of the quota system for freedom fighters and their descendants, despite massive demands for reform. Protests led by university students escalated on April 8th at Shabag, leading to clashes with police and BCL activists, which resulted in over 160 injuries. University students nationwide boycotted classes and blocked highways in solidarity, demanding immediate action instead of a month-long review. The situation intensified when Ifat Jahan Isha, BCL president at Sufia Kamal Hall, tortured a student for participating in the protests, sparking widespread outrage. On April 12th, the movement concluded with Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina affirming the abolition of the quota system. It seems history is to repeat itself. For the past few weeks, Bangladesh has witnessed yet another massive student-led movement. So, what triggered these protests? It all started on June 5th when the High Court reinstated a job quota system that reserves 1/3 of civil service positions for the children of those who fought in Bangladesh's 1971 Liberation War. This decision reversed the 2018 ruling by Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, which had previously abolished these quotas after massive protests. The quota system in Bangladesh, established in 1972, reserves 56% of first and second-class government jobs for specific groups, 30% for children and grandchildren of freedom fighters, 10% for women, 10% for underrepresented districts, 5% for ethnic minorities, 1% for people with disabilities. The remaining 44% of jobs are open to all candidates based on merit. Sheikh Hasina later cited the High Court verdict as a barrier to reforming the freedom fighters' quota. The recent protests, however, aren't just about the quotas themselves. They are about fairness and meritocracy. Students from both government and private universities across Bangladesh are calling for a reduction in these quotas, advocating for a more merit-based system. They argue that the current system disadvantages many qualified candidates. The government's response to these protests has been severe. Riot police have used tear gas and batons, with pro-government student groups like the Bangladesh Chhatra League, or BCL, being responsible for violent confrontations with the protesters, even at sites like hospitals and university dorms. The protests were countered with abductions and assaults led by BCL. The student founder Farooq Hassan going missing. As of now, at least 150 people have been killed, with over thousands injured. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's recent remarks have added fuel to the fire, referring to the protesters as Rajakars.
মুক্তিযোদ্ধাদের নাতিপুতিরাও পাবে না, তাহলে কি রাজাকারের নাতিপুতিরা পাবে? সেটা আমার প্রশ্ন, দেশবাসীর কাছে প্রশ্ন।
A highly offensive term in Bangladesh, which denotes collaborators with Pakistan during Bangladesh's liberation war. In response, students have taken to the streets with slogans like, "Break down the shackles of quotas." Let's take a quick look at the recent timeline of the protests. June 5th, High Court reinstates the quota system. July 1st, student protests begin. July 7th through 16th, blockades, sit-ins, and violent clashes across the country. July 17th, continued demonstrations, funerals for the deceased. July 19th, internet blackout imposed. July 20th to 23rd, curfew instated. July 22nd, Supreme Court rolls back quota system, 93% now reserved for general populace, 5% for freedom fighters and their kin, 1% for ethnic minorities, 1% for transgender and physically disabled. The situation remains tense as students continue to demand justice and a fairer job allocation system. The government's handling of these protests and the violent response from pro-government groups has drawn widespread criticism, both domestically and internationally. As we watch this movement unfold, it's clear that these students are not just fighting against a quota system, but for the future where merit and fairness prevail. We'll keep you updated on this story as it develops. Thank you for watching, and remember to stay informed and engaged.